spindle prepared. So just need to chop off the ends where they've been in the chuck to drive them through. For long spindles, that's about right. These are about 28.5 inches. We're going to go for about 25 inches of exposed spindle, so we've got to allow for the tenon. So that's gives us a little bit to play with. So six long spindles, and then for the short spindles, 8.5 inches is the height. So you need about 9 because they're slightly angled, and then 10 if we include the arm. That's about an inch thick or so, and then 1.5 inches. So we want about, call it 12 inches. We're then going to put a tenon on each end. One end will be the tenon to go in the seat. The other end is the tenon to help guide us, to give us a sort of a ballpark dimension we can plane the rest of it down to. So we use the tenon cutter in the lathe. This is simply a hole that's exactly the same height as the chuck and everything, so it helps us to keep this parallel. The idea being to try and keep this tenon in the same plane as the rest of it, because if it's angled off, you can end up with a slightly angled tenon. So it's just a case of hang on to it. I use 2 hands on it because you will want to grab the spindle and then pull it out your hands. Slide this along. Again, we do both ends for the short spindle. Right, so to prepare our spindles, we've got here. I've got a few bits and bobs to help me. First of all, tool-wise, I'm going to do most of the work with a block plane, freshly sharpened block plane. I then have a curved scraper, sort of spindle shaped, as well as the Windsor Workshop straight little scraper. I have an Allen key set into a block of wood which has been ground to a point, which we'll use to rest the end of the spindles on. I've got a scrap piece of wood with a 13mm hole, so that's what we've drilled in the seat and the holes in the arm, the short spindles, so we can just do a test fit with those. I've got this little jig here, which is 8.5 inches plus the tenon on here. So if we're sizing up, if we put that on there, we know that's where the arm should be on the spindle. So we can use this just to get a rough guide of whether we're there in terms of getting it down to shape. I've got a metal plate here which has got all different size holes in it, so we're going to use the 13 and the 15, the different size holes we've got to work with. And then I've got a planing sled here which I will screw that into the bench. This is set so that the block plane can ride on it at a skewed angle on the spindle. So we've got a stop at the end there. Very easy to turn it. So, but this is set to a 12mm depth, so we can't go less than 12mm. We can't get carried away and go too thin, because our mortise in the crest is going to be 12mm. So that's as far as we want to go. So we can't go under 12mm with this. We can still take it out around by mistake, but 12mm is as much as we go. So this will be clamped to the bench so we can work against it, and I'll screw this in as well, and then we'll get started. We're now moving on to shaping the spindles. What we need to do is to make this a snug fit, so that this is the same size as in the seat, and we've got a test hole here so we can try it out. The moment it's too big, so we need to trim this down a little, but also what we're aiming to do is to taper this in at the bottom, just a short taper, but then a longer taper into the top, so we end up with a spindle that's sort of goes thin, wider, and then thins down subtly. It's only a small amount, but it just gives a bit of shape. That is a little bit more prominent, I guess you'd say, in the long sticks, as we're taking those down a little bit further to a 12mm for the crest. But this has to go through. You better get the arm bow down to about an 8.5 inch line. So we want to taper this so we can slide this through, and obviously this so it fits in the seat. So we've got a metal plate here with different size holes. It's a 13mm hole we drilled, so we've got the 13mm hole here. And one easy way to size this down is to simply knock it through the hole with a hammer. So that just to get us sort of started. What we want to do is make sure we keep this parallel, so we can take a little bit off the base where the bulbous bit, but we don't want to take too much off this. We don't want to taper this. This needs to be parallel sided. So that just gives us a sort of starting point, what we're aiming for. There. Another way we can do this is to use the block plane. So just take a little bit off and planing it across it, not along it. So we're taking this down, but not on the tenon. Right, that's looking pretty good, but we've got a little step on one side, so we'll just take that down. And spoke shave. Put that in our test hole. That's pretty good. So that's the bottom tenon. We now need to blend this in to the top one. So this is where this comes in handy. We can use the block plane. It's easy to rotate this round. Using the block plane on the skew, takes a nice curly shaving. And I'm watching, I don't want to very slightly hit the tenon. If anything, I want to take it down off this section here. So I'm keeping an eye on this to make sure we don't go too far. So we're still not that close to hitting our 30mm hole, so that's fine. We're just starting to cross over our line here. So just go very carefully. Again, we want to see how close we are and make sure we're taking off evenly all around. We want to keep it circular. Leaves us with a clear step as to where the so we've got 30mm here, and this is thicker, so this tells exactly where we need to remove some wood, but not from here. Again, we can always test it in the arm itself. see this coming through the other side. I mean, we're about 8.5 inches or so, so we've got a bit of play there. The idea is to try and sneak up on our fit. You don't want to overshoot it. And then it's a sort of final tidy up. Use the chair down just to scrape the finish. So for the long sticks, long spindles, use a similar process. So our tenon on the bottom is going to be 13mm. Right, so that's our bottom tenon. So we want to put a taper into this to bring this down. So our 8.5 inch armrest is going to be about here. I want this to gradually taper down, and we don't need to take that much off because what we use a 15mm hole, and this is about just under 17mm, so we don't want a lot to take off from here, but we want to taper from there. So we can use this as a guide, so we can lose a little bit off this end. We want this down to 12. Basically just start planing. Turning this end, keeping an eye on our shoulder here on this tenon so we can see that we're staying circular. Don't want to make it oval shape. Quite a long way to go, but again we want to sneak up on this fit, not overshoot it. That's our 12mm hole, so we're about on the 12mm mark, so that's fine. So little way to go, but this end is now about right, so we don't want to take any off here now, so we're just planing from the middle section. It is just then the case of repeating the process for the other sticks. Okay, so we're going to do a bit more shaping on the arm. I've decided I'm going to trim off from the inside maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7mm perhaps. I did a quick test fit on the chair with the spindles in, and I feel this a bit too much in my lower back, so I want to make that a bit slimmer, particularly around there. I just want to put some shape into the ends of the arm, so I'm going to use this blue roller tape. It almost fits, just to get a rough shape to round that off. now. With a balancing act, thin part look more elegant, thicker parts are stronger, and it's trying to find the right balance. So we'll take this to the bandsaw, or trim this up, and then we can do some shaping. The hands on the end of the arms can be any shape you like. It can be anything from a simple straight cut through to something more intricate. The choice is yours. The arm is rounded over on the top and any harsh edges smooth. The seat is fine or sanded, in particular the area around the stick mortises is smooth, as once the sticks are in this is so much harder to reach. Make sure to clean out the mortises of any wood shavings, as these could prevent the sticks seating fully. Glue is applied to the mortises and spread around the inside. The excess is wiped off with the damp cloth. It's then just a case of hammering home the sticks. Then it's just a case of fitting the arm over the sticks.
Once the short sticks are aligned into the holes, it is left sitting proud, so there is a little well to take some glue. Only a small amount of glue is needed here, because as soon as you push the arm down onto the sticks, a lot of it comes out the top anyway, as these are quite snug fitting joints. The arm is then tapped down to its final position. A piece of scrap is used between the hammer and the arm to prevent marking it. Some 8.5 inch spacers are used to get the arm to the correct height. Once I think it's there, I check it again with a ruler just to make doubly sure. The top of the short sticks is then cut back to approximately 1/2 inch or so. This leaves a good length for splitting the end with a chisel prior to fitting the wedges. Then just a case of gluing the wedges and tapping them home. Also double checking to make sure the arm hasn't shifted any while this is going on, so double checking with the ruler. Tops of the tenons are then cut back close to the arm, making sure to keep the supporting hand well out of the way. This is then smoothed off once the glue is dry with a cabinet scraper and sandpaper. Went over the chair with some 220 grit sandpaper just to give a final smooth to the surface. The final piece to make for the chair is the crest. This is long enough to fit over the top of the sticks with a couple of inches either side. I drew on a gentle curve, which was then cut out on the bandsaw. The crest was then shaped using spoke shapes. I cut out a curved shape on one end of the crest and then used a sheet of paper and a pencil to copy the shape onto the other end and cut this similarly. The crest is then clamped upside down in the vise, ready to drill the mortises. These are spaced the same as they are in the arm and the seat. They are slightly offset towards the front of the crest, as these will be angled towards the back. These are then punched in and drilled. The drilling angle is not exact, I eyeball this. It's just important to get them all the same and to get them parallel. Next I did a test fit of the crest and get it to sit level. The ruler is used to check the distance from the seat as well as from the arm. It should be the same on both sides. Then marked under the crest on the sticks to get a line so that they can all be cut to the same length. Then it is just a case of some glue and putting the crest on to get it into its final position. Again, just checking with the ruler to make sure that it is level. The crest is additionally secured with mini dowels, if you like. These are in fact bamboo skewers. Just a case of finding a matching drill bit so you can drill into the two outer and two middle spindles from the back. The skewers are then glued and tapped into position, then trimmed off and ready to be sanded smooth. Our chair is now fully constructed and is just waiting for finish, which will be in part 6. If this has been useful for you, please like and subscribe as it helps the channel. Many thanks for watching.